It broke my heart. My name is Vander Puchert, and this is Finding Frequency. After 4 days of lounging around the house, playing, having fun, and basically doing what he wants, I had to take Francie to the kindergarten this morning. I managed to have the adventure we always have. So it was jumping over ice robots and lava and lasers. But the closer we got to the kindergarten, the slower the little man started walking. And then finally, as he got his jacket off, he kind of clung to his little dresser, his little place where we hang his clothes, and he didn't want to go in. And I felt bad leaving him there. Of course, I got like a little bit of a half wave and he was off. Luckily, later Martha phoned and I could hear his voice in the background, so I feel much better. But yeah, it's always heartbreaking to leave him there. And like I said in the previous episode, I don't always understand because I don't know the language and sometimes the culture kind of misaligns, what's going on there. And I'm always worried about my little boy. I don't want him to be damaged or hurt or anything. I just want him to retain his sensitivity because he's super sensitive and it's something that I want him to keep. I want him to feel love all the time and I want him to be sensitive to these things. So let's see. Maybe I'm oversensitive and maybe overprotective, but I want to do that as long as I can. But then what's happening here on this side? So I'm fairly tired. I sat till late last night around 12 o'clock, and then after that I couldn't even sleep, working on some stuff, but not work this time. It's just stuff that I wanted to do for myself and for my kind of experimentations with these content things that I'm doing. And I decided to formalize some of the work that I'm doing around the live streaming in the sense of having a website. And between you and me, the big thing that I'm facing now, which is really a challenge with this live streaming project, it's not so much the live streams. It's a lot of work. It's so much work. But I know that I need to try and find some kind of angle, some kind of return on investment, which I really haven't identified yet. And of course, I'm getting at least one at this stage, business requests in, and I'm starting to build network, which is great. But ultimately, I really need to build an audience. And of course, my content's not for everybody. But the big challenge here is also to try and build a mailing list. So the one thing that a lot of marketers won't tell you is that having 1 billion subscribers on YouTube is great, and it definitely has its benefits. But you have to have your own list. You have to try and own your properties. And I'm always hesitant to say own and control and those kind of words because it sounds a bit dark or condescending. But it's really about having access to the folks who want to have access to you. So for example, the simplest way you can do this, and you will roll your eyes perhaps, is to have an emailing list. So in the old days, we used to build these big databases where people opt in to receive email from us. And let me tell you a secret. Those things are still relevant. You see, the problem is that on platforms like Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn and all these things, those platforms don't belong to you. Do you know that? You have no rights there. And that's a good and bad thing, because the good thing is that you can use these platforms. And boy, do I use these platforms and enjoy being there. And of course, there's a bit of a barter going on, and perhaps they overstep the bounds sometimes here and there with what they're doing with my data and our privacy. But there is, value exchange happening because I'm using their platform to do business and they are using my data to do business for themselves and gain insights and perhaps make a lot more money than I'm making. But that being said, that is the rules of engagement that I've accepted up in this point. But the problem is that they have the control and you don't really have any say or control whatever you're doing. So what you need to do is you need to build your business on top of these platforms, or at least in such a way that if a platform kicks you off or goes out of business or their policies change, that change in policy doesn't affect you. There's a guy that I follow that always talks about being slapped by Google. So, for example, Google search is a big marketing engine that a lot of people don't realize. So if you're not in this world, search is still a big thing. We go to Google to search for things, but Google is a big advertiser. So every time they change the algorithm and things change and advertising rules change, people lose money. Some people lose their businesses because they rely on that source of income or source of information or source of customers all the time. So the big thing that I'm trying to do, and it's really difficult, is now to build a base. And I've spoken about SA Paintball a long time ago, this project that I ran, 20 years ago. And to be honest with you, the biggest thing that I had with this project is that I had about 5,000 email addresses, current, up to date, of high-end South African paintball players that I could contact at the drop of a hat. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a super niche audience. It's super important. And in fact, when I closed the website, someone actually offered me a fair amount of money to actually buy that list. I didn't do that because I felt it was unethical, because those folks gave their data to me to look after. So I never handed over that list. But I'm sitting now in the same position where between you and me, I have like 6 people on my mailing list. And I'm not trying to coach you into my mailing list if you're not interested in the content that I'm creating on that side of my business. But I need to start building a list and start building a community around what I'm doing. Because ultimately, at some stage, I probably want to sell something, or sell something sounds so bad, but like I might have services or offerings that people care about. Because what I'm also trying to do is the content that I'm creating, and theoretically, if you listen to this, you're either my mom or family, or there's something that I'm talking about that you might find interesting from time to time. And perhaps there's a reason for us to do business sometime, or maybe there's something I do that you need, or maybe I have something that you need, or maybe you have something that I need. Never know. But that's kind of the plan. And I don't want to rely on these platforms to do that. I want to work with them. I want to leverage them and see where this takes me. But I'm getting way ahead of myself. So what I've done is I've created a little website called creativecoffeebreak.live. Yes, and I'm not advertising to you. I just want to tell you something interesting about this. So to push my adventures in technology even a little bit further, I can't believe I'm telling this. I'm actually really looking around to see if someone sees me talking about this. But I actually did a very interesting experiment. So recently, I signed up for a small startup that uses artificial intelligence to generate copy. So what it does, so what you do is you sit down, you write down some aspects of your business or your offerings, and in layman's terms, what you believe the key elements of this offering is. And then you submit this into a system, you answer a few questions, it tries to get as much context as possible. And then what this solution does, and I mean, it's really early days, it's a startup, they're still figuring out a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of other solutions out there. But what this service does, it generates all the copy for your website. Now, of course, you have to go back and check it and tweak it to be a bit more aligned with you. And this is not templates. The machine, the technology, reads what you've written, looks through all the things that it knows, in air quotes, and then starts generating content as it sees fit according to your context that you've given. Artificial intelligence. Can you believe where we are? That you can actually get a computer to write your content for you. Now, I'm not completely convinced. I had to go and actually change the content, update it, and fix it a little bit, but it's so interesting. It made things so easy and just shows you where technology is going with all these interesting things happening. It's not replacing us yet, but it also forced me to sit late night and actually tweak around and mess around in some HTML code to actually get the website up. So it's there. CreativeCoffeeBreak.live is now live. And I have a new little website where hopefully people will go and sign up for my mailing list, my humble little mailing list. Let's see where this goes in a couple of months of time. If I have more than 5 people on there, I'll have to do some interesting things, I think. That being said, I have some interesting playing to do quite soon. I'm waiting for the little man to come back. So, hope you're having a good time. And thanks for listening.